And hey there.
Welcome, welcome. Nice to meet you. This is awesome. I'm excited. Kristen has told me just a little bit, just a little bit, like a little sneak peek at some of what you've been experiencing. And so I'm really excited to hear the full details on it.
Yeah, and I'm excited to, hear your all's feedback on it and everything. So I'm all caught up on the show and whatnot. So I just finished episode 2 and before we recorded. So good job, ladies, and I'm digging it.
Oh my gosh, Corey, I don't know if Kristen shared this with you, but she was after our last recording, she was like, "Oh yeah, I really want to have my friend Corey on. He's got this gremlin experience." And I was so fascinated. I was like, "Oh, I get off with her and I'm driving and the license plate in front of me said gremlin with a heart." I'm like, "Okay, all right."
She sent me that picture and she's like, "You're gonna be on the next episode." It's I was like, perfect.
Awesome. Awesome.
Well, we're honored to have you on our show. You are our first official Hey Boo guest speaker.
Thank you. Thank you. Honored to be here.
Very special. And maybe just a quick intro about who you are and what you're up to, and maybe how magic hits your life right now.
Yeah, of course. So I'm Corey. I am Zach's co-host on Podcasting After Dark. We do a weekly cult movie podcast, and I've known Zach and Kristen and Bodhi. Well, Bodhi his whole life. But my God, how long has it been now? So maybe pushing 12 years, 13, 15. I don't know. Feels like you've been in my life forever, Kristen.
You're my pop-pop. You're my pop-pop.
Yeah. So I was but I met everybody through Diallo. I lived next door to Diallo, and yep, met him when he was moving out of his apartment, and then we became friends, and then I met everybody through Diallo. So Diallo was the great bringer in of me into the group, into the fold.
That's great. That's exactly how Kristen and I met too. It was through Diallo. So he is the great connector. I love it.
Diallo does have that ability. He definitely does have that ability. And the funny thing is, as far as magic in my life goes right now, it's very minuscule, unfortunately. Doing the podcast and everything, and it's my full-time job, and I take it very seriously. So I'm in a bit of a schedule, and I don't want to say a rut. It's more of just like I'm things are very scheduled and sort of regimented, and I do believe that is necessary when it comes to creating a successful podcast. But regimentation and schedules and everything is the death of magic, unfortunately. So I've also been trying to incorporate more magic into my life lately. I've been trying to bring it in, not trying to force it, just gonna kind of just let it sort of happen. And the way I sort of keep in touch with things that are magical is I listen to magic centric podcast shows like Hey Boo and everything. And by the way, Hey Boo, we didn't do the proper intro. We just kind of started recording, but I've gone through some ups and downs with it, and I'll we'll detail some of that in a little bit. But where things stand for me right now is I have a great appreciation for magic, a great appreciation for energy flows. That's kind of where my headspace is at. But I also have a strong appreciation for intention, and if anything, my brief time with sigil magic and everything, when I was really hardcore into it, before I left LA, this was about 5 or 6 years ago, it taught me to take onus of things that were problems in my life and not blame outside sources, but actually look at me and see how I created these things, and also to kind of watch my thoughts and not spiral, and realize when that you're what you think and what you do creates the reality around you. And if every day, because I was a Lyft driver for like a couple of years, and if every day you're saying I hate my life and my life is terrible, well, your life is going to be terrible because you say it every single day. So magic taught me better than any therapy or whatever, to how to change my mind and how I think about my reality. So I know that was a big information dump on you all, but right now I'm trying to find more magic right now is what I'm trying to do.
Corey, can you explain to listeners what sigil magic is?
I can try. So basically, the actual practice of it versus what the ideas behind it are, but the actual practice of it is you create an abstract image based on the based on letters from a phrase. So you take a phrase like, I want XYZ or whatever, and you want to be very specific. And you take the not the vowels, but the consonants out, and you create an image out of an abstract image. And then you meditate on that image, not so much what it means, but what that image actually is. And then you fire that image off into the universe. And once you're done with that, you want to just forget it. You want to drop it and forget it. Now, the charging of the sigil is done through meditation. You just stare at it, and a lot of people say different things. You stare at it until it starts vibrating and all this kind of stuff. And it's like sort of your subconscious is kind of like getting to know it and everything. And I don't want to be vulgar, but firing the sigil into the universe usually comes during orgasm. People say you can do it during a sneeze or a fart, and it's whenever your body is expelling something. But most people say that it's best with an orgasm. And this obviously where, a lot of Aleister Crowley stuff comes from and everything, chaos magic stuff, but sigil magic, it's this, and the way I look at it is that you're basically, you're talking to your subconscious, and your subconscious, my understanding of it is that it doesn't understand words, it understands intentions and symbols. And so even though at the end of the day you don't remember, and you hopefully you shouldn't remember sort of what the words, the exact phrase was that you created the sigil with, but your subconscious remembers. And it's kind of a way to just taking an intent and just focusing it out there. And obviously, like a lot of things, you gotta, it's like, I can't just do a sigil to be president. Like, you have to be doing the work. And the way I see it as is it kind of lines things up to maybe be probability is better in your favor type of thing. Now I've done quite a bit of sigil magic, and I can tell you that they've all worked, and they all have come true. And then you ask yourself, or people may say, hey, well, then why don't you do it like on a daily basis? Because once you realize that it works, it's terrifying. Like, because you also realize that you need to be extremely precise in what you want, because you can be like, I want $1 million. And then, your dad dies and you leave you money behind. You know what I mean? Like, the universe will give you what you want, but there's no morality to it on its end. So sigil magic, I believe, works, and I believe anyone can do it, whether what you believe in or don't believe in. I think if you do it right, anyone can do sigil magic. But at the same time, I think the most integral part of it is meditating on exactly what you want. You don't want to just be willy-nilly firing things left and right out into the universe that you don't know exactly what you want or the consequences of getting that said thing.
Right. So the more specific, the better. And actually, this is very similar to an exercise that I give a lot of friends and family who are feeling a little lost and want to sort of hone in on whatever that next thing is. And it's what I've recommended and that I learned from, I'll have to follow back on who the author is, but it's called the contrast clarity list, where on the left side, it's like a pro cons kind of framework. On the left side, you write down all the things you don't want. So let's just take, for example, a job, your next career. You write down all the things that you don't want in that career on the left-hand side. And the idea is to get anywhere between 50 to 100 items listed, so that once you feel like you've exhausted that list, you go back up to the top. You start with the very first thing that you wrote. It could be like low pay. You cross that thing off and you write abundance, high pay, and you go all the way back down your list of contrasts, and you put the opposite of what that is. And very similar to what you're talking about with sigil magic is that you're now clarifying your manifestation of exactly what you want. For me, I got everything I asked for, but I wish I had been more specific.
Yeah.
I wish I had said stock options, health benefits, full-time work, like job security. I didn't put those things. I put other things. And so the more specific you can get, the better. And then it's the concept where we talked about in our last episode, which we have not released yet, of this or something better. That little statement would be a good safety net to steer the universe in the direction of something nice to have versus like oh God, I didn't think of getting it that way.
Right.
Of, death or something.
Right. And I think that is the fear now. Like, now that I know that sigil magic works and I haven't done it in so long, it's because, I don't know. I have the life that I want. I'm a podcaster full time. I'm living in Eugene, Oregon. I love it here with my wife and everything. Now, I want to say, obviously, Sigil Magic helped me get here, but, also my wife helped me get here. You know what I mean? Like her support, both, financially and emotionally and everything helped me get to where I'm at. And, and so it's like, I don't want to take credit away from her and all of her hard work and all of her sacrifice. And I don't want to put it all on the Sigil Magic, but if I went back in time, I don't know if I'd be here without learning that Sigil Magic. And like I said, even if it doesn't work, even if no part of it works, it still helped me change my outlook on my own actions, and take more responsibility for my own actions because magic teaches you that it's all, inside of you, especially chaos magic. That's sort of where my tent pole is, which is everything we're all creating. Every one of us are creating reality at the same time. And, you have full reins over your own reality and everything, but it's your reality. If things are going bad, obviously someone walks up onto the street and punches you in the face, like, you probably didn't do that. The world is still chaos. There are still things happening, but like the big stuff, you're like, why am I at where I'm at? Why am I stuck here in this mindset? Or why am I stuck in this horrific job, like being a Lyft driver in Los Angeles? Like, I'm here because of choices I made. And, for a long time, it's like, oh, people can fall into the woe is me. And, why did I do to deserve this? And no, you got to start breaking it apart. And even though I don't do a lot of Sigil Magic stuff anymore, I still take those lessons of taking responsibility for my actions and my thoughts. Taking responsibility for my thoughts is another big aspect, because we all know we can be in the shower and we can be thinking about something, and all of a sudden 20 minutes have gone by and we've had a whole mental battle with somebody or something that never even existed. It's all just you know what I mean? Like, it's all just imagination, and that's bad. Like, that's not reality. You're not, like, you know what I mean? You're not living in the moment. You're stuck in this fantasy thing. And it's taught me to just really be like, oh, this is like not getting stuck into mental spirals like that. It's like a nice byproduct of the time that I spent with chaos magic, as opposed to some of the things I'm going to talk about, which might not be so nice of a byproduct.
I have a question about the Sigil Magic. So what part of it for you, if any, do you feel is around the energy that you're creating, or the emotion that you bring to it, or how you're kind of resonating as you're working your magic? Do you feel like that has a part to play in it?
Oh yeah, I think because a lot of it is, if you read a lot of the books, especially like, Aleister Crowley, like ceremonial magic and stuff, you don't want to have any lust for results, because if you keep wondering why it's not coming true, it's not going to come true. But at the same time, when you fire the sigil, you need to fire it with all of the confidence that it's going to come true. So that energy has to be that calm energy that when you throw the basketball, you turn your back because you sunk that shot. You know what I mean? Just it in your heart of hearts. And you have to force yourself to feel that way, because a lot of times we all know that feeling, but we don't know how to conjure that feeling sort of out of thin air. We just sort of know it when it happens. But with the Sigil Magic, you want to just, when you fire it, know in your heart of hearts that you sunk it, it's happened, and I'm walking away. And this might sound familiar to people who are, listen to The Secret and everything, because essentially The Secret was chaos magic, but without any of the pomp and circumstance, or, it's just all the things, the ceremony. It's without any of the ceremony, but the premise is still there, which is the belief that you've accomplished this goal, and for me, why sort of Sigil Magic kind of appealed to me, because I looked at it as a way of sort of reaching behind the scenes and moving some gears around and being like, no, this is my true intention. This is what I want you to be focusing on as far as like the universe goes. This is like, and then at the same time, it teaches you to, you start thinking like, oh, these thoughts, this is not what I really want. So I don't really even need to be concentrating on these things, and that's where I think meditating on what you want, meditating on what you truly want. And I think a lot of times people find out that when they do that deep meditation on what they truly want, is a lot of times they find out that they already have it, or they don't actually want it, I don't know if that answered anything of what you were asking.
No, it absolutely did. It absolutely did. But I'm curious, after you shared that, what's the most significant thing in your life that you feel has been manifested because of the Sigil Magic that you practice?
right here, right now. Like, like the podcast, like, Kristen, podcasting after dark, my goal for me and Zach is for it to be the #1 cult movie podcast in the world. That's my goal. And it's a simple goal. But I sometimes think, I'm like, well, maybe I achieved that already, because, I was looking at the Spotify, end of year things, and it's like 100 people like listen to your podcast as the first thing they listen to. And I'm like, maybe for them, it's the #1 cult movie podcast in the world. And as long as that is the case for one person, then it came true, I hesitate I don't want to talk about anything specific that you said I sigilized, and people mention you shouldn't, be like, oh, this is exactly what my sigil was. It's internal to yourself. But I will say that all the ones I've done have come true. Every single one of them might not be immediate, but upon reflection, they do. And I'm no longer a Lyft driver in Los Angeles. I'm still alive. I mean, Kristen knows how much of a toll it took on my soul to do that job. And the fact that I'm still alive and I'm in Eugene, Oregon, in a place that I love, with my wife, and I have a great life. I have a wonderful life. And, again, Sigil Magic, but I'll give Sigil Magic 30%. I'll give my wife 70%, as to why things are so great. But
Smart man. I love it.
Little sparkles in the corner. Want to hit that every time I get boot tingles, because I don't want to interrupt when people talk, but I did get it a couple times while Corey was sharing.
I've heard the boot tingles and I'm happy to give them.
So cool. It makes sense when you talk about the physical reaction or action. It's almost condensed energy, the fart, the orgasm, the thing that you expel, because it's like an intensified ball of energy that you're throwing towards something. So I love that visual that you talk about and how it connects to the intention that you're creating.
Yeah. And whether you're talking to the Godhead, whether you're talking to just your oversoul and forcing your own subconscious to kind of be more focused, whether there is an angel actually, guardian angel actually doing it, I don't know. I have my own beliefs, and I don't think it really matters, what my beliefs are. It works, and anyone can do it. That's no matter what your belief is. If you do the steps correctly, like, it works. And there's a million and one tutorials online on YouTube on how to, do them and everything. So that's kind of easy to find. But if anyone is interested in, looking up, chaos magic, I would recommend starting with Condensed Chaos by Phil Hine. I was reading that pretty much during that whole experience. And then I was also reading The Occult by The Occult by Colin Wilson. It's a pretty dense book, but it's pretty all encompassing. So those are two books that I was reading when I had some pretty intense paranormal experiences, if you want me to get into those at all.
Yeah, one last thought I wanted to share while you were speaking was my struggle sometimes is not wanting to ask for more without appreciating what you already have. Because I don't think you can't accept or be able to have more in your life if you don't realize how much in your life you have to be grateful for. So it was just a sentiment that I wanted to share. And I wonder, as a last kind of follow up to this topic, how you guys process that information. What is too much to ask for? Like, where does it sort of teeter between everything you have and everyone is exactly what you need and all you need in that moment? Like, where do you draw the line of saying, it'd be nice to have that Malibu house or XYZ?
Yeah. Well, for me, and I've really been playing with this lately, is it's less about the thing and more about the experience that I think the thing will give me. And so if you're like, oh, I want a Malibu house. Okay, what is the Malibu house going to give to me? Oh, it's going to give me a sense of peace, a sense of freedom, whatever that is. And the more that I can focus in on, like I've been playing with this with manifesting, is like just almost eliminating the Malibu house. It's more, okay, I saw the Malibu house as something that I wanted. What is that experience that I'm actually seeking? And how can I call that feeling into being right now? And then when I get that sense, that freedom, that peace, that beauty, whatever it is that house represents, when I'm really in that frequency of it, it's this or something better. And so whatever's in alignment for my soul, for my spirit, it might be the Malibu house. And if it's really in alignment, I'm never asking for too much. I'm asking for what's in alignment with that peace, that freedom, that beauty. And it might be, for somebody, it might be a Malibu house. For me, it might be a little cottage in the woods. You just, it's whatever's in alignment with that emotional experience that you're really seeking, because it's never really about the thing. And the more that I play with that, the more freedom that I feel like I have, and I feel like I'm actually calling in things that my conscious mind isn't even aware of. It's my spirit is totally aware of it. And it's like, wow, I didn't even have that in my imagination of what that was, but here it is, and I'm loving it, possibly more than the Malibu house or whatever it is. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and I
Yeah.
guess I should just take it further by saying, like, it feels very shallow that I just stopped at Malibu House. But for me, what I think of it as is a place to have retreats. Like like to own a place that I could help others, like you guys host retreats to help people through their work and their trauma and whatever. And so I think I'm like, it was kind of eating at me. Like, I didn't mean to stop right there because it was like so superficial. It was more of like a way to host, and because I love hosting, and that to me is an extension of who I am as a person, but to be able to do it in a beautiful place overlooking the ocean.
Yes. Yes. I love that. I love that distinction, because I think the more that you could get into the feeling of what it feels like to host and what it feels like to call these beautiful people together and share all this beautiful wisdom and knowledge, then it's like, wow, it might just be the Malibu house, or it might be something that you're not even aware of, but that's going to bring you just more of that sense. So I love that.
Yeah, it's like money, like you're like, oh, for everyone's first thought is like, oh, I'm going to sigilize like $1 million. And it's like, well, do you care about the money, or is it about the freedom from not having stress, the freedom from, being able to do what you want to do at the end? And then so you realize, with the meditation and, kind of still for me talking about sigil magic, you realize you're like, I don't want to sigilize the money. I want to sigilize the experience. I want to sigilize what I want, which is what I really want is freedom to do what I want to do, not be stressed about paying bills. I want to sigilize. I want to just be able to pay all my bills, on time type of thing, that kind of thing. And then Kristen, your other question about, gratitude, I was starting that at the exact same time. So I was doing that, and that's a practice I still do now. I'll when I go on my walks and everything, I'll just, I'm thankful for my friends. I mean, I've told Zach, I'm like, I'm thankful for Zach in my life. I'm thankful for you in my life. It's just like, I'll go through each person, be like, I'm thankful for this person, thankful for that person to help me get there. I'm thankful for my ancestors. Like, that's one that I've been kind of honing in on lately, and literally thinking about the millions upon millions of people that carried the genes that allowed me to be where I am right now. And I'm like, well, I want to make you guys proud because you guys gave up a lot to get me here. And I don't just mean like immediate parents and grandparents. I'm talking like thousands of years ago. Like they're you know what I mean? Like we all have that gene that's kept us going this entire, and we're here because of hundreds of thousands of people that came before us, our lineage, that we'll never know, but we're here because of them, and you want to do them proud. So I think all of that had to happen at the same time, so that you're just not like, it just all goes together. So you're not just like sigilizing, like, I need $500, like, and yeah, and here's, I've heard other podcasters talk about magic. Somebody said, okay, I need $2,000. They got in an accident with a deer. The car got totaled, and the insurance company gave them $2,000. And it's like, well, but you didn't sigilize it to be done in a safe way. The universe was just, and again, I do believe there's no morality to it. The universe is like, okay, you want it? Here you go. But it's going to give you the easiest path. Here's the easiest path. Let me put this deer in front of you. Boom. You got $2,000. You're happy. Well, come on. You know what I mean? And I think you need to, that's where the fear comes from of knowing that it works. And that's where massive amounts of meditation comes from before even figuring out what you want to sigilize is necessary.
I agree. Well said. Love that.
Thank you for sharing that.
So I've had some experiences throughout my life, and I will say, I don't want to speak for my wife. She's more of someone who can see things and everything, but she doesn't talk about it too much. That's all I'm really going to say about it. Me, I'm the opposite in the fact that, like, I'm pretty grounded in reality here. I enjoy reality. I believe there's more, obviously. I was raised Roman Catholic, but it never quite sat well with me. I didn't quite jive with it. So I'll say I'm spiritual now. I believe in a God. I believe in things and gods and stuff, but I'm not Catholic, you know? I think some people like you all, from what I've listened to, and, I know you, Kristen, I think some people have things are more inherent, it's like drawing. Like some people can inherently draw, but at the same time, someone who can't can still learn how to draw. I think everyone has the ability, same with music and stuff. So I think you can have the ability and learn to open yourself up, but I never sort of had it inherently. I don't believe, whereas I believe my wife does. So I haven't had too many experiences throughout my life, but the ones that I have had were pretty profound. Again, a handful, and I'll just kind of maybe go through them like sort of in a timeline. The fun one back in the 90s, I was driving home probably about 1, 2 in the morning from a friend's house, going through some country roads, but also not like no one's there. It's still like, there's still a bunch of houses around, and you'll come across a housing development, and then it'll get more rural, and it's just one of those type of places. And I saw a house off like way back there, not too far, maybe like 25 to 30, 40 yards away. And I'm just driving, and the house, picture the poltergeist house, every window had lights shooting out of it. And I slowed down, I was watching, I was like, that's weird. Why is someone like flicking the lights on and off all over the house? And then I realized that, like, you can tell that these two windows would be the same room, you know what I mean? But a light would shine out of one window and not the other. And then the light would be coming like out of the window itself and not like from inside. So I wasn't actually seeing inside the house. And this wasn't Christmas. This wasn't anything like that. But it'd be like upstairs left window on, upstairs or downstairs right window up, like it just boom, pop, boom, pop, pop, pop all over the house like that. And I was like, huh, that's weird. Okay. And just kind of, drove away. But I'll always remember it as maybe a thing that, sort of informed me that, yeah, the world's a strange place. Like not everything is 100% how you see it. And I think that's what I take away from that one tiny experience. And I truly have no idea what was going on there. Could have been electrical malfunction for all I know, but it was weird because, when you see a pitch black house and a light comes on in that room, you'll still see some of that room in the light. This was as if the light was radiating from outside the window, like through the window panes themselves. Do you know what I mean?
Wow. Did it look like there were people home, or it was a
Nope.
pitch black house, you said?
Pitch black house. Pitch black house.
Wow. That's a trip. That's a trip.
And it wasn't like flashlights going through it, because then you would see them and everything. It was like upper left, bottom right, upper right, bottom left, like just boop, 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 all over the house. It was crazy, but that was a fun one. I was like, that's fun.
That's entertaining. Yeah. I have to tell you, it's totally off topic, but we're all old enough. Remember the cameras where you had to buy the separated flash cartridge on
of
top?
course.
My brother and I used to have flash wars in my bedroom, like whatever. I mean, we'd like stack the pillows on the bed and we'd be on each side and we'd like flash the camera. I just couldn't help but think of that, but totally not the same thing. It was just a core memory.
And obviously I'm all for there's an explanation for it, and maybe there is, but it doesn't change how it affected me. It doesn't change the fact that it had an effect on me, I should say.
Yeah, it stayed with you. You're telling it right now.
Exactly. Yeah. So, got to LA, yada, yada, yada. I don't really know if there's other things that happened. Maybe there was, but obviously things that sort of stick out at me. When I was doing Lyft, I was in a very bad negative space. Again, this is what started me going into magic, because I was like, at this point, I was like, I don't have anything exciting and new to lean on. Let me just try this, type of thing, and kind of fell into it. But like I said, I was reading this giant book on the occult at the same time that I was reading, the Condensed Chaos. I was listening to a lot of magic podcasts and YouTube stuff and everything. And I do believe that changes your vibe, your mind, and your energy. And I was a sponge. I was soaking everything up and being that, that person who's like, I got to tell you all about that. You know what I mean? It just, because it was so exciting and everything. But I do remember when I was doing Lyft, it's another fun one, but I found it to be a bit annoying. On the app, when you would get a request for a pickup, I would always do Burbank Airport. When you get a request for pickup, you don't see where they're going. And Lyft does this to prevent people from declining short rides or declining long rides, but you don't see where you're going before you accept it, or until you actually get to the spot to pick them up. But it was half a day. It's happened like 3 times right before I clicked it, I could see in my mind's eye, I could 100% see on the app where I was going. I knew 100% where I was going. I could see that. And I went and picked them up and 100% exactly where, and it was like I was, even though I was looking at the app and I didn't see the location of where the drop off would be in my head, like it replaced the screen. You know what I mean? Like I could, even though I could still see it, you know how that kind of goes with what's in your mind's eye type of thing. And this happened 3 times in that same day until I was like, and I know you guys cussed on the show. So I was like, no, fuck you. My mutant power is not going to be precognition for lift and where I'm going. And with that, never came back. It ended that right there. The whole precognition thing, but it happened for like 3 rides. And I was just like, fuck you. Like, this is connected to lift? No. But it was weird. It was the weirdest thing. I like in my head, I was just like, this is weird. This is really weird. So, and people are like, oh, you just saw it on the app. No, the app never showed you until you picked the person up where you're going to drop them off. And I could see it. And I could see it like it was like a map. It wasn't like I could see like El Segundo in my head. I just saw the map, and
just for listeners' validation, like I know I've mentioned it on previous episodes, but like my superpower is like my body lights up and tingles when someone's telling their truth. And I mean, it's legit. Corey's legit.
My truth is F left.
I got the tingles too.
But the big one that the reason that we're kind of having this discussion right now, probably at the peak of everything, but not at the end of me doing sigil magic, but looking back towards the end, of me doing it. I was in my apartment with my now wife. We were probably engaged by that point. North Hollywood apartment, your typical, and the layout is kind of important, so I'm gonna have to sort of explain it. But I know you ladies are in LA, so this will probably sound familiar. But typical 1-bedroom North Hollywood apartment. You got your bedroom here. Walk straight out of my bedroom is a tiny, tiny, tiny little bathroom. Go to the left is the kitchen. And if you go through the kitchen, it becomes the dining room / living room, and then the front door. And it's like a U. So if, my bed is on the right, the front door is a U to the left, and I would walk out and around. Hardwood floors, typical for LA. And my apartment, like the back windows, you could see, it was just an alley. You could see the next apartment complex over. You couldn't even see the sky. So, typical North Hollywood.
Old building.
Yeah. Probably made in the 70s, 60s, whatever, that era was. So I woke up, as I'm want to do every night, to go pee. I get up and my wife's asleep, and it's so bright out that it feels like noon. Like it looks like noon, but it feels like 3 a.m. You know what I mean? I'm tired, like it's 3 a.m. My body, you just have that internal understanding of time, even when you're asleep, So I woke up, I had to pee, obviously, but I woke up and I was like, huh. So, I start walking out into the little hallway, and I'm looking around, and it's so bright in my apartment. Again, this is kind of similar to the house story earlier, because it's not like, even when it's bright outside, I could still see the apartments across. Like you can still see outside. It was like a white light was against the window. Like I can't look out of it, but the light is coming through the window. And again, it's sort of like that daylight kind of color. So it's like, and I'm like, it's like noon or something. I'm like, but it's not. And I can still feel the cold on my feet, the tile in the kitchen. So I'm like, this is odd. So I'm walking. I'm about to round the corner into the living room. This is not big at all, but I'm about to round the corner into the living room. We have the TV against this wall facing the opposite wall. So I'm not going to see the TV. Like the TV would be to my left, do you know what I mean? Like I wouldn't see the TV. Whatever it was looking at its own reflection in the TV. So I start rounding the corner, and I'm getting the goosebumps. First thing I saw was the side of the ear, just pointing out, just like a triangle, 100% in my head, like the movie Gremlins, except this dude was like 5 feet tall, maybe like 4.5, like almost my height, but not quite like person size. So I start rounding the corner. In my head, this is like slow motion, As you're rounding the corner, you get more of the face. My first initial thought was, why is there an animatronic gremlin in my living room? Like I'm initially going to the movies, you know, in my head, I'm like, why is there a puppet? But my head was literally, why is there an animatronic gremlin in my living room? And his yellow eye, because that's as far as I got, was to like halfway. His yellow eye that was looking intently, I can tell you, at his own reflection in the darkness of the TV. It did that, you know, that look at me, you know, it in the way it shot over and the way that the eye moved. My gut, like I fell into like a pit and I was like, that's not animatronic. And then boom, I shoot up awake in my bed, basically like, and I've never had this happen before, but with a caveat to that, and I'll circle back around to it. I shoot up awake in my bed. I don't know if I was screaming, but it felt like I was. And, you know, I shoot up awake and it's the proper time. It's 3 a.m. The lights are, you know, it's dark. It's like how it should be. And, you know, first thought everyone has is, well, that was a dream. Okay. So first off, Corey, me, I know I dream. We all dream. I know that. I don't remember jack shit. Maybe it's the weed that I smoke before going to bed. It probably is. But all my entire life, I've rarely remembered my dreams ever. I go to sleep, wake up, I'm awake. You know what I mean? Like I never remember my dreams. So to have a dream that intense, where even now I can remember everything about it. I can remember the coldness in the air. I can remember the cold on my feet, and I can remember his eye. Just, you know, animatronics, everything is controlled. Whereas if you look at human eyes and eyes that are alive, you know, they don't just do a straight left and right movement. There's little tiny micro movements. And I saw every bit of those micro movements. And now I can't tell you exactly what it looked like. In my head, it was a gremlin from the movie Gremlins. It had the big long ear and everything. It had the yellow eye, green skin, not like skin, but kind of, you know, rough and everything. But that's as far as I saw of it. And well, first off, questions?
Most captivating story ever. I did
Yes.
wonder though, do you remember smelling anything?
Being an ex-cigarette smoker, my olfactory kind of sucks to begin with. So I don't, and I kind of don't usually rely on my nose too much anyways, which kind of sucks. I wish I didn't have that issue, you know?
All right, that is a default question for me because I know I'm a super smeller. So usually my nose detects anything before my eyes do. Which
Yeah.
is weird.
Have you seen that same being again? Or was that an isolated time?
Okay. Obviously reflected on it, on the event after it happened. And it unlocked a memory for me from when I was a kid. So I'm going to circle back around now, flashback to when I was 6 years old. I wanted one of those life-size Gremlin toys that they sold because I like that movie. I don't even know if the movie had actually come out yet, but I know the toys existed. And so I wanted that for Christmas. And I remember now, thanks to this event, when I was a kid, I woke up screaming because there was a gremlin in my room. And I told my mom, I don't want the gremlin toy anymore, you know, for Christmas because I was scared of it. And so I'm like, oh my God, are these two things related? And, you know, I'm looking back on the dream, the gremlin in the North Hollywood apartment, and I never felt any malice from it. If anything, the greatest sense that I got from it when it looked at me was like, ah, crap, I messed up. Like you were supposed to be asleep or something. Like, ah, crap, I got to deal with you now. And but also it wasn't like again, it wasn't like a malicious, oh crap, I got to deal with you. It's just like, ah, crap, like this is my fault. You know what I mean? Like I did this, meaning him. And this is just a feeling. That's all that is. But I look back and I'm like, well, what if there was never any ill intent? It's just the way he looks or it looks is so jarring to me as a human. You know, maybe he was there looking over me when I was, you know, a kid. And again, maybe my gremlin guardian is a bit of a goof sometimes and doesn't remember to put me to sleep all the way. And I wake up once every 40 years or 30 years and 40 years to discover him. I don't know, but I kind of connect the two experiences now. And I choose not to make it a negative one. I choose to say, no, that's my gremlin buddy. Like, even though I woke up utterly terrified and shocked, again, I think that was just my own reaction. I don't feel or remember feeling any malice from him. It's just his visage is so shocking and startling to me, and you do hear like the DMT realm, people talk about the DMT realm and how like there are entities that people see in there that even like cross culturally, even culturally, people shouldn't have even shared these sort of same ideals, but they'll still see them. The gremlin is one of them, kind of a gestury gremlin is one of them, but like people like in Africa who don't have like the gesture image in their subconscious will still see the same looking creature as people in, England who might be more familiar with the gesture image, but meaning the people in who with cultures that don't have it, they're not just implanting it. You know what I mean? So I think, okay, maybe I just was, what if I wasn't physically there, like walking around in my apartment, but I was in that in between realm, that DMT realm or something like that. And it wasn't like I was actually physically doing it. Or maybe I was physically walking in the DMT realm and he was like, oh crap, you're not supposed to be here, type of thing. So that's kind of where my head goes. And again, I think with a lot of experiences, with people's experiences, I think we should trust their feelings and how they feel it like happened, and how they feel about things. We have no proof. You guys have no proof that I'm not lying or anything, but like I just have my feelings, and looking back on it, I don't know if he's connected to me somehow, but I feel like it was the same entity. And I don't really ever feel like it was supposed to be a negative experience. If anything, it was a mistake on his part, is what I felt like.
Well, I can totally relate. And I find that space, like in that in between dream and awake space, I find that space so fascinating because, and I don't know what allows people to slip into that space at all, but I do know that I've experienced that same space a lot where it feels like the room is the same or the house is the same. It feels like I am almost like awake, but my sense is that I know that that my body is sleeping. I know my body is sleeping, but it's like my spirit is almost in another dimension, but everything looks the same. And I have the same thing. It's not a gremlin, but definitely different beings will come into that space. So I almost feel like that space is another dimension that unlocks the ability to see other beings, other realms. So I think that's I can totally relate to that, and I 100% believe that happened. I'm so curious about the actual being of a gremlin and what you like is your sense that it is some sort of a like a guide or just somebody who's been kind of hanging around? Like what's your sense of why he's there?
My gut is telling me it's more of the latter. Like, he's more of like a worker. It's not so much like I'm a guide. It's not so much I'm here to do anything. It's more like this is my job. And my job is to, I don't know, watch over or just do things. I don't know. But my sense was he done fucked up that night. And it was like, oh crap, type of thing. Now I've done some deep, guided meditation, with shamanic drums and stuff like that. I've met my spirit guide, or maybe one of them. His name is Oleg. He's a giant land sloth. But I also got the sense that sort of he doesn't have to be the only one, and there are other ones and everything. And when I was over there, deep in meditation and whatnot, I remember, sitting in the grass and kind of laying in his lap type of thing, and I felt warm and whatnot. And I remember, looking down at the water and instantly being teleported to the inside, like under the water. And there was like this giant octopus down there, and I wasn't afraid. And it's not like I could breathe, but I didn't need to breathe type of thing. And I remember being like kind of not dragged down, but pulled down by the octopus, and sort of the octopus saying like, I could be a guy too if you want me to, but I'm not. So bye. Like it was a great little experience. And then I kind of hung out with Oleg a little bit more, but I never really have done that deep meditation again, even though I promised him I'd be back, and I never kept that promise, unfortunately. So I would like to, although I do believe time works differently, so it kind of doesn't matter if I go tomorrow will be the same as going back 10 years ago, type of thing.
I think it's a version of astroplaning.
Yeah, I think so.
Probably.
Yeah. Not that I have any experience, like, being able to do it, but from what I've heard and understood, yeah.
Not to detract from the story, Bodhi astroplanes, and we will have put him to bed, and he's done this his entire life. We'll come upstairs and we'll watch a show, and the next day he talks to us about something related to what we watched to the night before. And he's not the kind of kid that would like climb upstairs and eavesdrop. Like he's dead asleep. Like once he's asleep, he's asleep.
And from what I've heard about from the show, you both have very exceptional children in that regard, and I think that's nice. I mean, I born in '78, grew up in the '80s. My dad, a used car salesman, very Catholic. My mom, doing her thing. Wasn't exposed to any of this stuff as a
Same.
kid. Any exposure came through movies. And then usually it was the tagline of that's evil, that's a demon or something. And I'm going to say right now, I hate the fact that everyone's like, everything's a demon now. Okay. All right. That's a very limited viewpoint. So
That's what
who
people say
knows?
that's what people say when they don't understand what it is. It's
Yeah.
easier to just make it black and white and label it and tuck it away, because if you start to scratch the surface and ask the questions, then it broadens your perspective. And some people just don't want to go there. They don't
Yeah.
have the capacity to understand it, and that's okay.
Yeah, no, and I think that there's a whole, menagerie of spirits on the other side, good, bad, indifferent, powerful, not as powerful, ones just doing their job versus ones that are trying to actually make waves. I think there's all kinds of things on the other side, but that's we can.
Yeah,
That's
just
that's
like
probably a
it's
whole
just
discussion
right. No,
on
it's
its
just
own.
like humanity, but
Yeah,
everyone in the physical world has a body. I mean, why would that be different in the spiritual realm?
yeah, exactly. And like recently, the only thing that I've had experience wise is that, and Myra had the exact same experience. We were driving here just through one of the neighborhoods, very suburbia up here, and midday, probably like 1 o'clock in the afternoon, probably about 6 months ago, we saw a UFO in the sky, just a silver UFO there, and we were like, is that a plane? Like, if it's a plane, it's not moving, which means it would be like should be coming at us, I guess, right? We're like, okay, it's not really doing that. And then we saw it cloak, like it didn't just blink out of existence. It like went whoop down, and then it like moved over a little bit, then whoop came back up, and then just silver, typical disc shaped UFO thing. And we lost it as we went to Target and just went about our day, But we were like, that was a UFO, and I was like, yeah, that was a UFO. No clouds in the sky whatsoever. 100% UFO. So I was like, that's cool. I love it. So
And nothing
haven't seen
Musk
Sasquatch yet.
I was gonna say
I-
nothing Elon Musk has created, because I did have a moment when, there was that poof in the sky, and I actually was like, are we being abducted right now? What is that?
Have you seen UFOs, Kristen? Like, do you have that experience?
I don't know. I haven't. I haven't.
Mm.
You?
Yeah, for sure, 100%. I think I was in fourth or fifth grade, and we lived in the mountains, and it was like some sort of like PTA meeting. It was at night in the evening. It was dark, so it was probably like winter time or fall. And my friend and I were really bored, so we went out onto the football field, and there were like the little like monkey bars that you play on. So we were out there in the dark playing on the monkey bars, and we look up, and it was like a disc shaped flying object, and it was just above the trees. And I mean, I think my jaw dropped, her jaw dropped, and it started to come down. And I had this thought, if it lands, I'm going in. Like, I'm going in. I was so fascinated by it. I was scared, but my heart was pumping. But I was like, I'm going to do this. Like, I'm going to go for it. And then as quickly as it came in, it literally just like went and disappeared. And then that was it. And then we started screaming and ran back in. We're like, "Mom, Dad."
Amazing.
I don't know that they really believed us, but it was, I'll never forget it. Never forget it. So awesome.
That's bonkers.
Yeah. Yeah.
Holy
Great.
moly.
I love these stories. And I wonder just for the listeners out there, like what beings you've come into contact with. Because all of these stories remind me too of just, my mom, when she was little, she would see what she called the rainbow man. And she was terrified of it. And it sounds so beautiful to me. She said it was like a man made of rainbows, and it would jump on her bed. And she would only see it when she was little. And she'd see it, and then she'd run out of the room. But I'm always curious. Like, I just think, when you're little, a lot of us are more open. We haven't been shut down yet. And so I'm just curious for the listeners out there, what beings you might have seen.
Mika,
Drop.
do you feel comfortable
Yeah.
sharing? I just remember this from a workshop that we had together, but the one that you had to bubble up and protect yourself from, there was one that Erin, who was at the workshop, she said she could see it. It was like a kind of not like a goblin-y type creature. Do you remember he was like trying to penetrate your bubble, but he couldn't get in because you had blocked him out? Does that ring a
Yeah.
bell?
So, and it's weird because she saw it, but I don't necessarily know, like when she said it, I understood it, but I don't exactly know what it looks like. I don't know what it looks like, but I could get the sense that, yeah, I mean, it just feels like, it almost feels like a, like a darker force and like kind of trying to move into my space and I again, I don't know what it looks like. I just get like when she saw it in that mediumship class, I could get the feeling of it.
It felt threatening, which is why you wanted to protect yourself from it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there's all kinds of realms out there, right? There's all kinds of realms and creatures, and I do think that we have the ability to call in what we want to call in and to say no to what we want out. So yeah, I think that like setting the intention for myself, because I do, for whatever reason, I don't know why, but I have attracted lots of different things into my life, not all that feel just love and light. I've definitely attracted some darker beings into my space, and I don't know why, but I did, at one point in time, after just working with a lot of healers and mediums, I realized that I have a say in who comes into my space. And so that's what my intention now is. I just say, I really only attract beings that are of my vibration or higher. I really don't want to attract like the lower frequencies. I just don't. So
Well,
just
that
for
can be said
anybody out
for, yeah, that can be said for even the physical realm, right? You don't want to spend time with people who are energy vampires.
there,
Yeah,
totally.
and I think it's sort of it's been proven time and time again that you can just say, "Hey, I need my space right now." And I think Kristen, you mentioned it on last episode, not the last one because there'll be one in between this, but on episode 2, but how Bodhi would have somebody maybe come in his room at night, and you're just like, "It's okay to ask them to leave you alone. It's your space now. It's your time." I think we have a lot more agency over things than we give ourselves credit for. And I do believe that that should always be the starting point is, hey, and nicely be like, hey, that's now it's not the time. You know what I mean? And I even use it in
Forever.
date,
Yeah.
and it's like sometimes like, like those days where everything kind of goes wrong, simple tasks, you're washing a dish and it fall like the simplest tasks just don't work. I tell Loki, I'm like, Loki, not into it right now, man. Leave me alone. I don't want this mischief. You're annoying me. And it stops. Now, am I just telling that to myself? Who knows? Like, am I just subconsciously changing things? Who knows? Am I actually talking to something that's actually there? Who knows? But it does tend to work. And I think that should be a starting point. And that's also should be a starting point for people who like say, hey, I want to understand more about magic, then you can ask for a teacher. You don't have to go in it alone all the time. You can ask for things. You can ask for like, hey, I want more magic in my life. Can you just do that? Can you put more magic into my life? Can you put me on a path of magic? Like you can ask for that kind of stuff. I think there's power in that, but there's also power in words. Like it has to come out of, I do believe that it has to come out of your mouth. Like I do know that like your thoughts kind of create things, but I think what comes out of your mouth is what the universe sort of hones in on, which I feel it gives you a little bit more leeway to have thoughts that you don't need to be so worried about because it's ultimately, I mean, you should obviously, not try to dwell on things, but at the same time, don't worry that, oh my God, I just had a negative thought that's going to, affect me. It's like, no, I think your mind can be a little bit guarded, but what comes out of your mouth is what your intention is.
Or writing
And I
it
think,
down.
yeah,
Yeah, I agree. It's a little bit more committed when you do that.
right. Yeah. I think you should be able to have have your mind going places and just like, it doesn't have to, there shouldn't be as much consequences. It's when you allow those thoughts to shoot out everywhere and then you become melancholy because of them. That's when it's bad. But you
Yeah.
shouldn't be so scared of having all kinds of different thoughts. But where do you put your intention? And usually what you say is what your intention is. So I think there's some connection there.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And if you have those thoughts, like I mean, we have all let our mind go into those, crazy places, but is there like an emotional attachment? If you like dwell on some really crazy thought for a long time, you're probably going to conjure
Yeah.
that feeling, that space, which could very well attract it into you. But just having the thought itself without like a really deep seated feeling, I don't think is like,
Like an
it's
orgasm.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. I love it.
But I mean, if anyone can take anything away from this discussion, a few things that I've learned during the course of this is that, if you start diving into it, just be aware that you're going to be changing the way your brain works. You're going to be changing your frequency just by knowing these new things, especially if it's exciting. I mean, it was a very energetic time for me spiritually. I felt like that time, which is also, the lowest time for me, work wise and everything profession wise, but it was the highest point for me, spiritual wise, that I do believe there is a connection between what I was doing and where I was, the headspace I was in, and the gremlin. Like maybe he was like, well, wait a minute, this normally works on you. Why did you wake up this time? Like I think I was changing and maybe he wasn't prepared for that. That's again just sort of my gut feelings and everything. So, be prepared. If you let this stuff in, guard yourself a little bit. Be prepared to sort of guard your thoughts and be truthful of what you really want. It's all about being truthful to yourself. But if you decide to start sigil magic, know that it works. If you do it right, it works. But knowing that, you really need to know what you want. And that's where just meditation and knowing who you truly are and what you want comes from. And I think they kind of, for me, that went hand in hand, learning sigil magic and then discovering me and taking more ownership of me and my life went hand in hand. And I directly got that from magic, sigil magic ceremony. I've never done like a ceremony, but I've read stuff and understand stuff about sigil and ceremony magic and stuff like that. And yeah, I think know that it works, but because it works, be careful.
Mhm. I love it. I love it. This has been such a great conversation, just super fun. Love the energy and love all the wisdom that comes along with it too. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks, Corey. You're the consummate podcasting professional. I love how you just wrapped it back all up for us with a tight bow. I'm like, dang, he just did our work for us. It's great.
It's almost like I've been doing it for 5 years.
Something like that.
Yeah. But no, this was great. And I love the show. I think you guys have a great energy and a great space for people. And I hope more people kind of use this as like a guide to get where they need to be. And, I also think that there's a lot of tools at people's disposal. Use what works for you. Everything hums. One of my favorite podcasts called Strange Familiars. He has a phrase that he didn't coin, but I'll still quote him on it. But everything hums. I followed that which hums for me. So I think, people, what works for you. There's so many different ways to do magic. There's so many different, you can also dive into tarot. You can dive into I Ching. You can all this divination stuff. What sounds right to you, follow that path. Follow it wherever that goes, and that'll lead you to nothing but positivity. Don't try to like be like, oh, well, but my best friend's into this sort of magic, but it doesn't really jive with me. It may jive with them. And if it doesn't jive with you, that's okay. Just follow your path. And I think everybody can follow a magical path. There's so many different magical paths to follow. I think the big thing is, though, we just need more magic in 2024. Get off social media and start doing some sigil magic.
Yeah, no, it's great. I think, it's like checking boxes off and being able to hear other people's experiences and their stories helps you hone in on yours. So I really appreciate all the time and energy that you brought to this episode. And we're just so thrilled to have had you. So thank you.
Thank you, ladies. I appreciate it. And I love being on the show and I love the show. So thank you very much.
Thanks. Hope to have you back again sometime. May the divine hold and protect you.
And may you remember your magic.
And so it is, my dear Booze.